Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into something that Joseph Murphy understood at a profound level: the art of opening yourself to miracles by aligning with the natural flow of universal intelligence rather than fighting against it. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about understanding a fundamental spiritual law that most people never discover. Have you ever felt like you're pushing against an invisible wall, exhausting yourself in the endless pursuit of something that always seems just out of reach? You know that feeling, don't you? That sensation of running on a treadmill that never stops, chasing dreams, opportunities, and miracles that feel like they belong to someone else's reality, not yours. What if I told you that the very act of chasing is what's keeping your blessings at bay? What if the universe has been waiting for you to stop forcing and start allowing? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's something that might completely shift your perspective. There comes a moment in every person's journey when everything changes. It's that moment when the walls of constant striving begin to crack, when the exhaustion of trying to control every outcome finally catches up with you. Has this ever happened to you? That point where you're so tired of forcing things that you just let go? And then, almost like magic, something shifts. Opportunities appear, doors open, solutions emerge from nowhere. This isn't coincidence. It's the universe responding to a fundamental change in your internal frequency. You see, we've been taught that miracles are these rare, exceptional events that happen to lucky people or those who've somehow earned divine favor through suffering or sacrifice. But Joseph Murphy's teachings reveal something radically different, something that goes against everything our achievement-obsessed culture has programmed into us. What if miracles aren't interruptions to the natural order at all? What if they are the natural order, simply waiting to be revealed the moment we stop blocking them with our resistance, our doubt, our desperate need to control? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you approach every aspect of your life, from relationships to finances, from health to purpose. The truth is, you're not waiting for miracles to show up in your life. You're actually living inside one right now, but your current state of consciousness has made you blind to it. Every breath you take, every synchronicity that occurs, every unexpected blessing that arrives, these are all expressions of a divine intelligence that's constantly orchestrating perfection on your behalf. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is where most people get stuck. The universe doesn't respond to begging, pleading, or desperate grasping. It responds to alignment, to a quiet inner knowing, to a state of consciousness that says, I trust the flow, rather than I must control everything. When you're constantly pushing, forcing, and striving from a place of fear and lack, you're actually creating resistance to the very harmony that's trying to work through you. Think about it for a moment. Your heart doesn't strain to beat 70 times per minute. Your lungs don't struggle to draw breath. The flowers in your garden don't force themselves to bloom. There's a perfect, precise harmony operating through all of existence. And that same intelligence is flowing through you right now, whether you're aware of it or not. This is the hidden truth that transforms everything. Every breath you take, every heartbeat pulsing in your chest, every cell regenerating in your body, all of it testifies to a divine order that requires no effort from you to sustain it. This harmony isn't something you need to create or earn. It's already here, already operating, already guiding your path and responding to the frequency of your inner state. Your world isn't shaped by what you do out there in the external realm. It's shaped by what you believe in here, in the quiet sanctuary of your consciousness. Joseph Murphy understood something profound that most spiritual teachers miss. He recognized that we're not separate beings, hoping to catch the attention of a distant universe. We are the universe made conscious. We are divine intelligence expressing itself through human form, creating through every thought we think and every feeling we generate. The ancient wisdom tells us, in him we live and move and have our being. And this isn't just beautiful poetry. It's describing the fundamental nature of reality itself. Here's where the transformation begins, and this is crucial to understand. The miracles you've been praying for, the abundance you've been chasing, the love you've been seeking, the peace you've been desperate to find, none of it is being withheld from you by some external force, making judgments about your worthiness. God isn't playing favorites. The universe isn't testing you to see if you deserve good things. The only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the disbelief you're holding in your consciousness. It's not about what's out there, it's about what's in here. This revelation changes everything about how you approach your journey. When you realize you're not a separate entity trying to manipulate or convince the universe to give you what you want, but rather an inseparable part of the creative process itself, your entire strategy shifts. You stop begging and start knowing. You stop chasing and start allowing. You stop forcing outcomes and start aligning with the natural flow of divine intelligence that's been orchestrating miracles long before you were born and will continue long after. The impact of this understanding on your daily decisions cannot be overstated. Every morning you wake up, you're not facing a hostile world that you need to conquer. You're stepping into a friendly universe that's conspiring on your behalf, waiting for your consciousness to align with its infinite possibilities. Now, I want to go even deeper into this because there's something specific about how this alignment actually works in practical terms, and it's something most people completely miss. Write in the comments, "I am the universe conscious," if this is resonating with you right now. The practical mechanism behind this is what Joseph Murphy called the law of vibration, and it operates with mathematical precision in your life every single day. Divine law doesn't pick and choose who it works for. It doesn't make exceptions. It fulfills what you truly believe without contradiction, like a mirror reflecting back exactly what stands before it. If you're living in fear's vibration, constantly worried about what might go wrong, anticipating failure, expecting disappointment, you're not being punished by the universe. You're simply magnetizing experiences that match that frequency. It's not personal, it's principle. The transformation happens when you understand that consciousness produces after its kind with the same certainty that an apple seed produces an apple tree, never an orange. You cannot plant seeds of doubt and expect to harvest confidence. You cannot dwell in the vibration of scarcity and expect abundance to knock on your door. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is about recognizing that your dominant inner state is broadcasting a signal 24 hours a day, and reality is constantly tuning into that frequency and delivering matching experiences. What's fascinating is how modern science has caught up with what ancient scripture has been teaching for thousands of years. Quantum physics now confirms that observation literally shapes reality. The famous double-slit experiment showed that particles behave differently when they're being observed versus when they're not. The observer isn't just passively watching reality unfold. The observer is participating in the creation of that reality. Your expectation directs the outcome. Your attention is where your energy flows, and where energy flows, form follows. This is the hidden mechanism behind every miracle, every answered prayer, every manifestation. In every laboratory experiment where infinite possibility collapses into definite fact, we're witnessing the same creative principle that Genesis described when it said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Creation unfolds through word, through imagination, through feeling. Your spoken word isn't just sound vibrating in air, it's a decree that sets forces in motion. Your imagination isn't fantasy or daydreaming, it's the workshop where reality is constructed before it appears in physical form. Your feelings aren't just emotions passing through, they're the magnetic force that pulls your imagined reality into tangible experience. The revelations keep unfolding when you sit with this. Everything you've been taught about how life works gets turned upside down. You realize that the power to change your circumstances doesn't lie in manipulating external conditions, but in transforming your internal frequency. The journey isn't about climbing some external ladder of success. It's about descending into the depths of your own consciousness and changing what's broadcasting from that inner sanctuary. When you shift from dwelling in fear to dwelling in faith, from expecting problems to expecting miracles, from feeling separate to feeling connected, the external world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match your new vibration. Behind the scenes of what appears to be random, chance and luck, there's an intelligence responding precisely to the signal you're transmitting. Drop a comment below saying, "I am shifting my frequency," if you're ready to make this change in your own life. This is where the practical application becomes crystal clear, and it's something Joseph Murphy emphasized throughout his entire body of work. Your words aren't just sounds vibrating through air that disappear into nothingness. They're codes of creation, instructions being fed into the universal computer that's constantly processing and executing commands. Every time you speak, you're not just describing reality, you're prescribing it. When you say, "I never have enough," you're not stating a fact, you're issuing a decree. When you declare, "Things always work out for me," you're not being delusionally positive. You're activating a creative principle that begins rearranging circumstances to match that statement. If you're serious about understanding how consciousness creates reality, and you want more content that goes this deep into universal principles, hit that subscribe button. This isn't motivational fluff. This is the real science of manifestation, and I'm here to guide you through every step of it. Your imagination operates on the same principle, but at an even deeper level. Most people dismiss imagination as fantasy, as mental wandering that has no connection to real life. But imagination is where substance gets sculpted before it takes physical form. When you vividly imagine yourself already living in the answered prayer, already experiencing the fulfilled desire, you're not daydreaming. You're engaging in the most powerful creative act available to human consciousness. The invisible realm of pure possibility begins to take shape in your imagination first. And then, through a process that seems miraculous but is actually lawful, it materializes into your tangible experience. The secret that unlocks this entire process is feeling. You can speak the words, you can visualize the images, but if you don't feel as though your prayer is already answered, if you don't emotionally inhabit the reality you're trying to create, nothing moves. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. When you feel wealthy before the money appears, when you feel loved before the person shows up, when you feel healthy before the symptoms disappear, you're drawing the invisible into visibility through the magnetic power of emotion. This is the simple, certain, divine science of miracles that anyone can access once they understand the mechanism. But here's where most people sabotage themselves, and this is a critical distinction to grasp. Miracles don't come through force, they come through flow. You cannot demand the river to move faster by thrashing around in the water. You cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling on its petals. You cannot strong-arm the universe into giving you what you want through sheer willpower and desperate effort. The transformation happens when you stop fighting and start flowing, when you surrender the resistance that's been blocking your good from reaching you. Think about what resistance actually is. It's the fear that tells you it won't work. It's the doubt that questions whether you're worthy. It's the anxiety that obsessively checks for evidence before it's time. All of that internal thrashing creates turbulence that blocks the natural current of divine order from carrying you to your destination. The decisions you make from this place of force always backfire because they're rooted in lack consciousness rather than trust. When you quiet that fear, when you release the need to control every detail, when you allow the current to carry you where divine intelligence intends, you enter a state of grace where things begin happening with an ease that feels almost supernatural. What was blocked suddenly opens. What was difficult suddenly flows. What seemed impossible suddenly becomes your reality, and you realize the only obstacle was your own resistance all along. Type, "I surrender to the flow," in the comments if you're ready to stop forcing and start allowing. Now here's a distinction that changes everything, and it's something people constantly misunderstand. Being open to miracles isn't about sitting back passively, doing nothing, and hoping the universe magically fixes your life while you binge-watch Netflix. That's not receptivity, that's abdication. True receptivity is an active inner state where you're consciously creating the conditions that allow grace to move freely through your life. It's the difference between a stagnant pond and a flowing river. Both contain water, but only one is alive with movement and vitality. Receptivity means you've cleared away the debris of doubt that's been clogging the channel. It means you've dismantled the barriers of fear that have been blocking your blessings from reaching you. It's an internal surrender that says something profound. Father, I trust your unseen wisdom more than my limited understanding. This isn't weakness. This is the ultimate power move. You're acknowledging that the intelligence that orchestrates billions of galaxies, that coordinates every heartbeat and breath, that maintains the precise balance of nature, that same intelligence knows how to handle your situation far better than your anxious, overthinking mind ever could. The transformation in your journey happens the moment you make this internal shift. Most people think they need to figure everything out, control every variable, anticipate every obstacle, and micromanage every detail. They're exhausting themselves trying to be the director, producer, and star of a show that was never theirs to control in the first place. But when you look back at your own life, you'll notice something remarkable. The greatest breakthroughs didn't come from your most intense periods of worry and striving. They came when you finally let go, when you stopped controlling, when you released the death grip you had on how things should unfold. Peace is not the absence of activity. Peace is the atmosphere in which true creation occurs. When you stop overthinking every decision, when you stop pleading with the universe like a beggar, when you stop checking obsessively to see if your manifestation has arrived yet, peace takes over. And in that peace, something miraculous begins to happen behind the scenes. Solutions appear that your worried mind could never have calculated. Opportunities emerge from directions you never would have anticipated. People show up carrying the exact resource you needed. This isn't random luck. This is the natural result of removing the interference pattern that your anxiety was creating. Joseph Murphy understood this as what he called the Sabbath of the soul, that inner rest that comes from knowing you've already received. It's not the end of creation, it's the very environment in which creation flourishes. When a farmer plants seeds, he doesn't dig them up every day to check if they're growing. He rests in the knowing that the soil, the sun, the rain, and the seed's inherent intelligence will do what they're designed to do. Your role isn't to make the seed grow through force of will. Your role is to plant it with faith, tend it with patience, and rest in the certainty of the harvest. That rest, that peace, that inner knowing, this is the secret ingredient that activates everything else we've been talking about, and it's what separates those who merely wish from those who actually receive. Right, I choose peace over control if this resonates with where you are right now on your journey. This brings us to one of the most powerful statements ever recorded about how reality actually works. The scripture says, "Whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them." Notice the specific instruction here. It doesn't say, "Believe you will. Receive them someday in the future when conditions are right." It says, "Believe that you receive them." Present tense, right now, in this moment of acceptance. This is the hidden truth that separates those who pray endlessly without results from those who speak once and watch reality shift. Faith isn't that desperate reaching for something that's missing from your life. It's not hoping, wishing, or crossing your fingers that maybe the universe will come through for you this time. Real faith is a quiet, unshakable confidence that it's already done. The decision has been made, the answer has been given, the miracle has already occurred in the realm of consciousness, and now it's simply a matter of time before the physical world catches up to reflect what's already true in spirit. When you pray from this place, you're not begging for something to happen. You're announcing what has already been established in the invisible realm. The transformation in your mindset when you grasp this is absolutely profound. You stop living in that exhausting state of when will it happen, and you start living in the peaceful knowing of it is done. This shift in consciousness has immediate impact on every area of your life because you begin to realize something extraordinary about your role in all of this. You're not a powerless observer hoping for grace to randomly strike. You are the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the dream that exists in imagination and the form that appears in physical reality. Every single cell in your body, every circumstance in your external environment, every seemingly random coincidence that crosses your path, all of it is constantly rearranging itself to mirror your inner knowing. When your inner knowing says, "I am blessed," the outer world begins constructing evidence of blessing. When your inner knowing says, "I am guided," the outer world presents you with guidance through people, opportunities, and intuitive nudges. When your inner knowing says, "I am provided for," resources begin flowing toward you through channels you never anticipated. This isn't magic. This is the natural response of a universe that operates according to precise spiritual laws. Miracles don't begin somewhere out there in the cosmos, waiting for permission to enter your life. They begin right here, inside your consciousness, through your belief, through your willingness to yield to divine intelligence rather than insisting on your limited perspective. Behind the scenes of what appears to be cause and effect in the physical world, there's a more fundamental causation happening in consciousness. Your inner state is the true cause, and everything you experience externally is the effect. Once you understand this, once you truly grasp that you are the bridge through which the infinite becomes finite, through which possibility becomes actuality, your entire approach to life undergoes a complete revolution. You stop being a victim of circumstances, and you start being a creator of them, not through force or manipulation, but through alignment with the creative principle that's been waiting for your cooperation all along. Put "I am the bridge" in the comments if you're beginning to see yourself in this new light. This is where so many people get stuck in their journey, and it's worth examining why miracles seem so rare for most, while others seem to experience them regularly. The answer isn't about worthiness or luck or divine favoritism. It comes down to this fundamental issue. We try to control miracles instead of allowing them. We approach the infinite intelligence of the universe as if it needs our instruction manual, as if God is waiting for our detailed directions about how, when, and through whom our blessings should arrive. This is like a drop of water trying to teach the ocean how to move. If this video shifted something in your perspective, if you felt that inner click of recognition, show it by hitting the like button. It's a simple way to say, "This resonated," and it helps this message find its way to others who need to hear it. The transformation happens when you recognize that you've been mistaking anxiety for action and worry for work. You think you're being productive when you're obsessively planning, controlling, and micromanaging every detail. You think you're doing your part when you're mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios and preparing contingency plans for disasters that haven't happened. But all of that mental noise isn't action, it's interference. It's static disrupting the clear signal between you and divine intelligence. Miracles don't bloom in the soil of panic. They bloom in the soil of trust, in that quiet inner knowing that says, I've done my part, now I release the outcome. Behind the scenes of every miracle you've witnessed in your own life, if you look carefully, you'll notice a common pattern. The breakthrough came after you finally stopped trying to force it. The answer appeared after you surrendered the need to figure it out. The door opened after you released your white-knuckled grip on how it should happen. When you surrender the how, the when, and the who, when you stop dictating to the universe exactly which path your blessing must take, you create a vacuum that grace rushes to fill. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does divine order. The moment you step back and make space, something greater than your limited perspective moves in to occupy that space. This is what the ancient wisdom means when it says, "Be still and know that I am God." It's not commanding you to be idle or passive. It's inviting you into a state of inward surrender, where the anxious, controlling, fearful part of you finally quiets down long enough for divine intelligence to work through you. Stillness isn't about doing nothing externally. It's about creating internal silence, that sacred space where I am, the creative power that spoke worlds into existence, can live and speak and move through your consciousness without interference from your worried mind. God moves most powerfully through the heart that is still, not because stillness is weakness, but because stillness is the absence of resistance. When you're still inside, you're not blocking the flow with doubt, not redirecting the current with fear, not second-guessing the wisdom that's trying to guide you. You become a clear channel through which miracles can manifest with precision and perfect timing. The decisions you make from this place of inner stillness carry a different quality than the decisions you make from anxiety. They feel effortless, obvious, right, because they're flowing from divine intelligence rather than from the limited calculations of your worried mind. And this shift in how you approach life's challenges and opportunities creates an entirely different trajectory for your future. Type, "I am becoming still," if you're ready to quiet the noise and let divine intelligence lead. This is where Joseph Murphy's teaching becomes intensely practical, and it's where most people make the critical mistake that keeps them trapped in lack. To live in the frequency of miracles, you must live as one already blessed, not as someone hoping to be blessed someday, not as someone waiting for external confirmation before you can feel grateful, but as someone who has already received. The transformation in your energy when you make this shift is palpable. You stop radiating desperation and you start radiating certainty. You stop begging and you start thanking. Think about how you would walk through your day if the miracle you've been praying for had already manifested. How would you carry yourself? What tone would be in your voice? What expression would be on your face? You wouldn't be anxious, checking your phone every 5 minutes to see if it arrived. You wouldn't be analyzing every delay as evidence that it's not working. You would move through your day with a quiet confidence, a peaceful knowing, a settled energy that says it is done. This isn't pretending. This is aligning your frequency with the reality you're calling into existence. When you speak with the tone of completion, when you rest in the peace of finished creation, you're not being delusional or ignoring practical responsibilities. You're operating from a level of consciousness that understands something profound about the nature of reality. The scripture tells us creation was finished from the foundation of the world. This is one of those statements that seems impossible until you understand what it's really saying. You are not making something happen through your prayers and visualizations. You are revealing what already exists in the realm of infinite potential. Every answered prayer, every fulfilled desire, every miracle you could ever experience, the seed of it already exists in the invisible field of pure possibility. Your job isn't to create it from nothing. Your job is to allow it to emerge by aligning your inner vision with its fulfillment frequency. When a radio isn't picking up a station, the problem isn't that the station stopped broadcasting. The problem is that the radio isn't tuned to the right frequency. The signal is always there, always broadcasting, always available. You just need to adjust your dial. This revelation changes your entire approach to prayer and manifestation. You stop striving to make things happen, and you start allowing things to be revealed. You stop trying to convince God to give you what you want, and you start tuning your consciousness to the frequency where what you desire already exists. Behind the scenes, in the invisible realm where all potential resides, your answered prayer is already complete. It's not waiting for the right circumstances. It's not delayed by your past mistakes. It's not dependent on other people's decisions. It exists as pure possibility, waiting only for your consciousness to align with it, so it can materialize into your physical experience. The impact of this understanding on your daily life is revolutionary. Every morning you wake up, you're not starting from zero, hoping today might be the day something good finally happens. You're waking up in a universe where your good already exists, where miracles are already present, where blessings are already prepared, and your only task is to maintain the frequency that allows them to become visible in your experience, which brings us to something crucial about how this alignment actually works in the practical moments of your everyday life. Right, creation is already complete. If this is shifting how you see your situation right now, the practical application of this principle is where everything we've been discussing comes together into a method you can use right now. Joseph Murphy taught that to pray is not to ask, but to assume. This single distinction separates those who pray for years without results from those who pray once and see reality shift. When you ask, you're affirming the absence of what you desire. You're coming from a state of lack, declaring through your very petition that you don't have it. But when you assume, you're coming from a state of possession, declaring through your consciousness that it's already yours. Feel it real. This isn't just a nice phrase, it's the entire mechanism. You must occupy the state of fulfilled desire until it feels as natural as breathing, not think about it, not hope. Aim for it, not visualize it as something far off in the future. You must feel yourself already being the person who has received. This is the transformation that changes everything. Faith is not waiting for something to arrive someday. Faith is the arrival. Faith lives from the end result, not toward it. You feel the wish fulfilled before it appears in physical form, and that feeling is what magnetizes the manifestation into your experience. Let me make this incredibly practical for you right now. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine that the miracle you've been desiring has already happened. Not that it's going to happen next week or next month, but that it has already occurred. You're living in the aftermath of the answered prayer. Now open your eyes and look at your current surroundings through the eyes of that fulfilled version of yourself. Everything shifts, doesn't it? What once looked ordinary now glows with new meaning. The same room, the same circumstances, but you're seeing them through a different lens, the lens of one who has already received. The air itself seems lighter when you do this because you've literally entered a different atmosphere. You've stepped into the frequency of answered prayer, and in that atmosphere, everything carries a different vibration. The impact this has on your decision-making, on how you interact with others, on the opportunities you notice, it's profound. You're no longer operating from desperation or scarcity. You're operating from fulfillment and abundance, and the universe responds to that frequency by sending you more experiences that match it. Behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary life, there's a constant exchange happening between your inner state and your outer circumstances. When your inner state says, "I have received," your outer circumstances begin rearranging themselves to confirm that truth. This isn't manipulation or trickery. This is how consciousness creates reality. You're not pretending something is true when it's not. You're recognizing that truth exists on multiple levels, and the level of consciousness determines which truth manifests in physical form. The seed exists before the tree appears. The blueprint exists before the building stands. Your fulfilled desire exists in consciousness before it materializes in circumstances, and when you inhabit that consciousness fully, the materialization becomes inevitable rather than possible. Drop "I live from the end" in the comments. If you're ready to stop waiting and start inhabiting, what happens next is absolutely critical to understand, because this is where most people abandon the process right before their breakthrough. You've established the feeling of fulfillment. You've entered the state of the wish fulfilled. Now you must hold that feeling, not for 5 minutes during your morning meditation and then spend the rest of the day in doubt and fear. You must let this inner assumption shape your breathing, your posture, your words, the way you move through your day. This isn't a technique you practice once and forget. This becomes your new baseline, your new normal, your new operating system. This inner assumption, this feeling of "I have already received," is your sacred signal to the universe. It's the frequency you're broadcasting 24 hours a day. And the universe, which is ever faithful to the law of correspondence, echoes back, "And so it is." It doesn't question whether you deserve it. It doesn't judge whether you're worthy enough. It simply matches your signal. When your signal says, "I am blessed," it responds with blessing. When your signal says, "Nothing ever works out for me," it responds with more evidence of that. The universe is a perfect mirror, and the quality of your inner assumption determines what gets reflected back. But here's where the journey gets interesting. And this is where trust becomes absolutely essential. The miracle may not appear in the form your logical mind expects. In fact, it almost never does. Divine intelligence operates with a perspective and wisdom that your limited human understanding cannot comprehend. The transformation you're seeking might come through a door you never thought to knock on. The answer to your prayer might arrive through a person you would have dismissed. The path to your fulfilled desire might include a detour that your mind interprets as failure, but is actually divine redirection. Don't judge the form. Trust the unfolding. When there's a delay, your mind immediately jumps to, "It's not working, I did something wrong, God said no." But a delay is not denial. It's alignment. Behind the scenes, circumstances are being orchestrated, people are being positioned, timing is being perfected. What looks like rejection from your limited viewpoint is actually redirection towards something better than you imagined. Everything, and I mean everything, moves in divine order toward your good. Scripture promises us all things work together for good to them that love God. And this includes the disappointments, the closed doors, the unexpected plot twists that made no sense in the moment. The impact of maintaining this trust during uncertain times cannot be overstated. This is where your faith gets tested and strengthened. When you can hold your inner assumption, even when external evidence seems to contradict it. When you can stay in the feeling of fulfillment, even when circumstances appear to be moving in the opposite direction, you're demonstrating a level of consciousness that commands reality to shift. Your unwavering inner conviction becomes the dominant force, and eventually, always, the outer world must conform to match it, which leads us to understanding how gratitude accelerates this entire process in ways that most people completely underestimate. Type, I trust divine timing, if you're willing to release your need to control how and when. What happens next is absolutely critical to understand, because this is where most people abandon the process right before their breakthrough. You've established the feeling of fulfillment. You've entered the state of the wish fulfilled. Now you must hold that feeling, not for 5 minutes during your morning meditation, and then spend the rest of the day in doubt and fear. You must let this inner assumption shape your breathing, your posture, your words, the way you move through your day. This isn't a technique you practice once and forget. This becomes your new baseline, your new normal, your new operating system. This inner assumption, this feeling of, I have already received, is your sacred signal to the universe. It's the frequency you're broadcasting 24 hours a day. And the universe, which is ever faithful to the law of correspondence, echoes back, and so it is. It doesn't question whether you deserve it. It doesn't judge whether you're worthy enough. It simply matches your signal. When your signal says, I am blessed, it responds with blessing. When your signal says, nothing ever works out for me, it responds with more evidence of that. The universe is a perfect mirror, and the quality of your inner assumption determines what gets reflected back. But here's where the journey gets interesting, and this is where trust becomes absolutely essential. The miracle may not appear in the form your logical mind expects. In fact, it almost never does. Divine intelligence operates with a perspective and wisdom that your limited human understanding cannot comprehend. The transformation you're seeking might come through a door you never thought to knock on. The answer to your prayer might arrive through a person you would have dismissed. The path to your fulfilled desire might include a detour that your mind interprets as failure, but is actually divine redirection. Don't judge the form. Trust the unfolding. When there's a delay, your mind immediately jumps to, it's not working. I did something wrong, God said. No, but a delay is not denial. It's alignment. Behind the scenes, circumstances are being orchestrated, people are being positioned, timing is being perfected. What looks like rejection from your limited viewpoint is actually redirection towards something better than you imagined. Everything, and I mean everything, moves in divine order toward your good. Scripture promises us all things work together for good to them that love God. And this includes the disappointments, the closed doors, the unexpected plot twists that made no sense in the moment. The impact of maintaining this trust during uncertain times cannot be overstated. This is where your faith gets tested and strengthened. When you can hold your inner assumption even when external evidence seems to contradict it. When you can stay in the feeling of fulfillment even when circumstances appear to be moving in the opposite direction. You're demonstrating a level of consciousness that commands reality to shift. Your unwavering inner conviction becomes the dominant force, and eventually, always, the outer world must conform to match it, which leads us to understanding how gratitude accelerates this entire process in ways that most people completely underestimate. Type, I trust divine timing, if you're willing to release your need to control how and when. Gratitude becomes the game changer in this entire process, and it operates in a way that most people completely misunderstand. They think gratitude is something you feel after you receive the blessing, like a polite thank you note you send after getting a gift. But in the realm of consciousness and creation, gratitude functions as the language of the miraculous itself. When you give thanks before seeing the evidence, when you express appreciation for what hasn't yet materialized in physical form, you're not being presumptuous or foolish. You're speaking the native language of manifestation. Gratitude is the recognition that nothing is missing, that abundance is already hear that love surrounds you even when circumstances suggest otherwise. Every thank you spoken in advance, every expression of appreciation for the answered prayer before it appears, multiplies the field of blessing around you. You're planting seeds in the invisible realm that will ripen in their appointed season. This isn't positive thinking or fake it till you make it psychology. This is understanding that gratitude is a vibrational statement that declares, "I have received," and that declaration sets forces in motion that must produce corresponding results. The transformation in your consciousness happens when you stop asking the wrong question and start asking the right one. The wrong question is, when will my miracle come? That question keeps you in a state of waiting, of lack, of separation from your desire. The right question is, how deeply can I rest in knowing it already has? This shift seems subtle, but its impact is revolutionary. You move from future tense to present tense, from hoping to knowing, from seeking to possessing. When you live in that knowing, really live in it, not just think about it occasionally, life has no choice but to rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. Behind the scenes, in ways you cannot track or measure with your physical senses, the unseen begins to press into visibility. What seemed impossible yesterday starts feeling inevitable today. Doors that were locked suddenly swing open. People who were obstacles suddenly become allies. Resources that were unavailable suddenly appear. This isn't luck changing or karma rewarding you. This is the law of consciousness responding to the signal you're broadcasting. Your inner knowing creates a magnetic field that draws matching circumstances, opportunities, and experiences into your orbit. This is where your journey stops being about trying to get something and starts being about recognizing what you already have. The shift from getting to recognizing changes everything. Your energy, your decisions, your interactions, your entire approach to life. You're no longer living from a deficit mentality, always trying to fill a void. You're living from a fullness mentality, recognizing that the void was always an illusion created by misdirected attention. When your attention shifts from what's missing to what's present, from what you lack to what you possess, from future possibility to present reality, the entire universe reorganizes itself around this new focal point, and what emerges from that reorganization often exceeds anything your limited imagination could have designed. Right. I am grateful now if you're ready to speak the language of miracles before seeing the evidence. This understanding brings us to a completely different way of holding your desires, and it's something Joseph Murphy emphasized throughout his work. To be open to miracles means living with open hands, not clenched in fear, desperately gripping what you have and anxiously reaching for what you don't. Open hands represent a posture of faith, a willingness to receive, a trust that what's yours will find you and what isn't meant for you will pass by without leaving you diminished. When your hands are clenched, closed, holding tight, nothing new can enter. When they're open, relaxed, released, the universe has space to place gifts you never anticipated. This posture of openness extends beyond your physical hands to your entire approach to life. You move through your days with a quiet confidence that divine order is never late. Not early, not late, but always precisely on time according to a wisdom that operates beyond the limited perspective of human impatience. You're being guided by an intelligence older than time itself, the same intelligence that knew how to form your body in your mother's womb without any conscious instruction from you, the same intelligence that orchestrates the seasons and the tides and the cycles of nature without ever making a mistake. Everything unfolding in your life, every single thing, including what you've labeled as problems, is part of your awakening. This is the hidden truth that transforms how you interpret challenges. The universe is not testing you to see if you're worthy enough to receive your blessing. That's the old paradigm, the punishing God mythology that's kept people in fear for centuries. The truth is far more compassionate and intelligent than that. The universe is training you, not testing you. It's perfecting you, not punishing you. Every challenge that crosses your path is an invitation to deepen your trust, to strengthen your faith muscle, to prove to yourself that you can maintain your inner conviction even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. Every period of silence, those times when heaven seems quiet and prayers feel like they're hitting the ceiling, is inviting you to hear more clearly, to listen beneath the noise, to tune into a frequency that doesn't require constant external validation. Every delay that frustrates your timeline is actually preparation happening behind the scenes, not absence or abandonment. It's the pause between breaths before the next divine movement, the necessary space that allows all the pieces to align perfectly. The impact of this perspective shift on your emotional well-being and mental peace is immediate. You stop interpreting every obstacle as evidence that you're being rejected and start seeing it as evidence that you're being refined. You stop taking every delay personally and start trusting that timing is being perfected. You stop resisting the journey and start embracing it as the exact curriculum your soul needs for its evolution. This mindset doesn't make the challenges disappear, but it completely transforms their meaning and therefore their effect on you, which naturally leads us to understanding what true surrender actually looks like in practical terms. Put, "I am being trained, not tested," if this reframe is shifting how you see your current challenges. Now, I want to go even deeper into understanding the actual mechanism through which this all works, because Joseph Murphy was crystal clear about this. Your imagination is not some frivolous faculty for daydreaming or entertainment. Imagination is the womb of reality. Every single thing that exists in physical form, the chair you're sitting on, the device you're watching this on, the building you're in, first existed as an image in someone's imagination. Nothing bypasses this process. Everything passes through the invisible workshop of imagination before it materializes into tangible form. This means every picture you hold in your mind with feeling becomes the world you will eventually inhabit. Not might become, will become. This is law, not hope. The transformation in your life begins when you start choosing your mental images as carefully as you would choose the blueprint for your dream home. You wouldn't give an architect random sketches and expect a beautiful house. Yet most people allow random, fearful, negative images to play continuously in their imagination and then wonder why their life looks the way it does. Dwell in the end, not the means. Stop obsessing over how it's going to happen, who's going to help you, what steps you need to take. Your job is to clearly see and feel the end result, the fulfilled desire, the answered prayer, the accomplished goal. Hold that picture with feeling until it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. Feel it done, not going to be done, done. When you can hold that feeling consistently, when you can return to that inner conviction throughout your day, the manifestation in physical form becomes inevitable. The universe has no choice but to produce in the outer world what you've established in the inner world. But here's something crucial about what happens when your miracle actually arrives. You must receive it with humility, not surprise. This is the mark of someone who truly understands how these principles work. The awakened don't gasp in shock when their prayer manifests. They don't marvel that the law actually worked. They rejoice in remembering how to work with the law, in recognizing that they've successfully aligned themselves with the creative principle that's been operating since the beginning of time. Surprise implies doubt. Surprise suggests you didn't really believe it would happen. But humility, combined with quiet knowing, that's the consciousness of mastery. Miracles are not rare interruptions to normal life for people who understand these principles. They become the natural rhythm, the expected outcome, the ordinary experience of one who lives in faith. When you consistently dwell in the end, when you persistently feel your desire fulfilled, when you habitually give thanks before seeing evidence, miracles stop being exceptional events and start being your baseline experience. This is the journey from hoping for occasional blessings to living in continuous flow with divine abundance, and it all starts with understanding that your imagination is not separate from creation. It is the very mechanism through which creation unfolds in your personal experience. Type, "My imagination creates my reality," if you're ready to take full responsibility for the images you're holding. This brings us to the most liberating revelation in all of Joseph Murphy's teaching, and it's something that will free you from years of striving and self-improvement fatigue. You don't need to become more worthy. You don't need to accumulate more spiritual knowledge or achieve some higher level of perfection before you're qualified to receive your miracles. The transformation you're seeking isn't about becoming something you're not. It's about remembering what you've always been. You are already one with the infinite, not partially connected, not working toward connection, but already unified with the creative source of all existence. Everything that belongs to the Father belongs to you. This isn't metaphorical poetry. This is literal truth about your identity and inheritance. Every promise, every blessing, every form of abundance, it's all fulfilled in the timeless now, not someday in the future when you've finally earned it. The miracle you've been waiting for isn't approaching from some distant horizon. You're living inside it right now. Your very existence is the miracle. The fact that you're breathing, thinking, aware, capable of desire and imagination, this is already the supernatural made natural, the impossible made ordinary. Behind the scenes of what you call ordinary life, there's extraordinary intelligence maintaining your every breath. The sun rises every morning without your instruction. Your lungs fill with oxygen without conscious command. Your heart beats roughly 100,000 times per day without you having to remember to make it happen. The unseen harmony that keeps stars in their orbits, that changes seasons with precision, that coordinates the migration of birds across continents. This same love surrounds you, guides you, sustains you every moment of your existence. The impact of truly opening your heart to this truth cannot be overstated. When you let this recognition flood every corner of your being, it silences the doubt that's been whispering, "You're not enough." It softens the fear that's been clenching your chest. It dissolves the anxiety that's been driving your desperate striving. You realize you've been trying to earn what was already given, trying to deserve what was already yours, trying to become worthy of a love that never required worthiness as a prerequisite. This shift in perception changes your entire approach to prayer, manifestation, and life itself. You stop begging and start claiming. You stop hoping and start knowing. You stop waiting for permission and start exercising your divine inheritance. Every decision you make from this place of remembered unity carries a different authority than decisions made from separation consciousness. You're no longer a small, isolated individual trying to get the attention of a distant universe. You're the universe becoming conscious of itself, creating through intention, shaping reality through belief, manifesting through feeling, which naturally brings us to understanding how this awareness transforms your daily experience in ways that might surprise you. Right, I remember who I am, if this truth is awakening something deep inside you right now. When you truly breathe in this revelation, when you let it settle into your bones rather than just bounce around in your thoughts, something extraordinary begins to happen in your daily experience. You start sensing that life itself is conspiring in your favor, not because you've suddenly become lucky or because karma decided to reward you, but because you've aligned yourself with the fundamental rhythm of creation. The transformation isn't happening out there in your circumstances. It's happening in here, in your consciousness, and everything external is simply reflecting that internal shift. You've entered what Joseph Murphy called the divine rhythm, that state where effort gives way to grace, where struggle dissolves into flow, where prayer stops being petition and becomes knowing. Manifestation is no longer about trying to create something from nothing. It becomes remembrance, recognizing what was always there, aligning with what already exists in potential form. The journey that once felt like climbing a mountain now feels like floating downstream. You're still moving, still progressing, still achieving, but the quality of the movement has completely changed. There's ease where there was strain. There's peace where there was anxiety. There's trust where there was fear. Behind the scenes of this shift, something profound is happening to your fundamental understanding of who you are. You're beginning to recognize that you're not a separate observer standing outside of creation, watching it happen, hoping to catch a few blessings if you're fortunate. You are the very awareness through which creation looks at itself. You're not separate from the process. You are the process becoming conscious. This isn't philosophy or mysticism. This is the hidden truth about the nature of reality that changes everything once you see it. The more deeply you realize this unity, the less you feel the need to control every detail of your life. A natural trust emerges, not blind faith but intelligent confidence that what truly belongs to you will find you without manipulation or force. What departs from your life, whether it's people, opportunities, or circumstances, was never meant to stay. It served its purpose in your evolution and moved on. This perspective completely transforms how you handle loss, disappointment, and change. You stop clinging desperately to what's leaving and start opening expectantly to what's arriving. The impact of this understanding on your decision-making process is revolutionary. You stop making choices from fear of loss and start making them from trust in the unfolding. You stop saying yes to things out of scarcity consciousness and start saying no with confidence that something better aligned is on its way. You stop forcing connections that feel wrong and start trusting that right relationships will emerge naturally. Every choice becomes simpler because you're no longer trying to manipulate outcomes. You're simply following the guidance of the intelligence that knows the bigger picture, and this naturally leads us to understanding what happens when you stop resisting and start receiving. Type, "I trust what's mine will find me," if you're ready to release control and embrace this flow. This is where everything we've been discussing comes into sharp focus, and it's the revelation that Joseph Murphy wanted everyone to understand. The true miracle isn't the new job that appears, the money that shows up, the relationship that manifests, or the healing that occurs. Those are wonderful, but they're secondary. The real miracle is the awakening happening within you, that fundamental shift from fear to faith, from exhausting striving to peaceful surrender, from paralyzing doubt to unshakable knowing. This internal transformation is what changes everything, because when consciousness changes, reality has no choice but to obey. This isn't just spiritual philosophy. It's scientific law as immutable and eternal as gravity or thermodynamics. Consciousness is the cause. Circumstances are the effect. When you change the cause, the effect must change. The transformation might not happen instantly in physical time, but it happens immediately in the realm where all manifestation originates. Your new consciousness sets in motion forces that cannot be stopped, only delayed by your own inconsistency or doubt. Once the shift happens internally and you maintain it, the external reorganization becomes inevitable. Here's the practical application that will change how you approach every single day. Every outer circumstance in your life right now is reflecting an inner vibration you've been broadcasting. This isn't about blame or guilt. It's about power and possibility. When you move into peace internally, not because everything is perfect externally, but because you've chosen peace as your baseline state. Peace begins appearing in your circumstances. When you dwell in gratitude, authentically appreciating what you have rather than obsessing over what you lack, the world starts giving you more things to be grateful for. When you live in love, treating yourself and others with genuine compassion and kindness, everything in your life reorganizes itself to mirror that frequency of love back to you. You literally become the frequency through which heaven touches earth. This is your role, your purpose, your function as a conscious being. You're not here to beg heaven for favors. You're here to be the channel through which divine intelligence expresses itself in physical form. Behind the scenes of what looks like ordinary human existence, there's an extraordinary process of translation happening. The infinite is becoming finite through you. The invisible is becoming visible through your consciousness. The potential is becoming actual through your belief and feeling. The impact of fully embracing this responsibility transforms your entire relationship with life. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a creator of them. You stop blaming external forces for your experience and start taking ownership of your internal state, knowing that the external must eventually conform to match it. Every decision you make moving forward comes from this place of understanding that you're not trying to change what's out there. You're aligning what's in here, and the outer world will follow, which brings us to understanding what happens when this alignment becomes your natural way of being. Right, I am the frequency. If you're claiming your power as the creative channel you were always meant to be. When this alignment becomes your natural way of being, something almost paradoxical begins to happen in your experience, and it's one of the most beautiful aspects of how these principles work. Doors start opening at the exact moment you stop desperately knocking on them. People begin appearing in your life precisely when you release the anxious need to control who shows up and when. Opportunities align themselves with perfect timing, not because you force them through manipulation or hustle, but because your vibration called them home like a beacon broadcasting into the universe. You've entered what Joseph Murphy understood as the sacred law of least resistance, the law of divine flow. This doesn't mean you become passive or lazy. It means your actions flow from inspiration rather than desperation, from guidance rather than anxiety. The transformation in how you work, how you pursue goals, how you build relationships becomes immediately obvious. There's power in your movements but no strain. There's intention in your direction but no forcing. There's clarity in your purpose but no obsession. You've discovered that the universe operates most efficiently through the path of least resistance. And when you align yourself with that principle, miracles stop being effortful achievements and start being natural occurrences. In this state of flow, you begin to notice something that completely contradicts everything conventional wisdom taught you about scarcity and competition. There is no lack in this realm. There is no scarcity. There is only infinite supply awaiting your awareness, awaiting your willingness to receive it. The scripture promises us, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Read that again. It's His pleasure to give, not His reluctant obligation, not His conditional offer if you prove yourself worthy. His pleasure. The giving brings joy to the source itself. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a world of limited resources and fierce competition, there's an infinite reservoir of supply that most people never tap into because they're operating from lack consciousness rather than abundance consciousness. The Father, the creative principle, the source, divine intelligence, whatever name resonates with you, needs no convincing. You don't have to talk Him into blessing you. You don't have to perform enough good deeds to earn His favor. The only thing required is allowing, opening, receiving, permitting the good that's already flowing toward you to actually reach you instead of blocking it with doubt, fear, and unworthiness. This is the highest form of faith, not the faith that begs and pleads and tries to convince God to help, but the faith that simply allows, that opens hands and heart and consciousness to receive what divine love has already prepared. The impact of this shift from convincing to allowing changes your prayer life, your meditation practice, your daily mindset, your entire approach to manifestation. And it naturally leads us to understanding how this receptive state actually accelerates the manifestation process in ways that forcing never could. Type, "I allow infinite supply" if you're ready to stop convincing and start receiving what's already yours. Now, I want to go even deeper into what this receptive state actually looks like in practice, because Joseph Murphy gave us a perfect metaphor for it. To be truly open to miracles, you must become as a child again. Not childish, but childlike. Trusting, receptive, unburdened by the heavy layers of logic and limitation that adult conditioning has piled onto your consciousness. Children believe easily, naturally, without interrogating every possibility through the filter of past disappointments. They haven't yet learned the lie of impossibility. They haven't been trained to doubt before they dream. Jesus understood this perfectly when he said, "Except you become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven." He wasn't talking about a place you go after death. He was describing a state of consciousness you can enter right now, that kingdom of infinite possibility where miracles are the norm, not the exception. The transformation back to this childlike faith doesn't mean abandoning wisdom or discernment. It means shedding the cynicism, the doubt, the realistic limitations that society convinced you were maturity, but were actually just learned helplessness. When you genuinely live this way, when you recover that childlike openness to wonder and possibility, something extraordinary happens to your perception of everyday life. Heaven stops being some distant realm you hope to reach and starts showing up everywhere you look. You see it in the stranger's smile that arrived exactly when you needed. Encouragement. You feel it in the timing of a phone call from someone you were just thinking about. You experience it in waves of unexplained peace that wash over you for no logical reason. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations that you've tuned into the frequency where the sacred and the ordinary occupy the same space. Behind the scenes of what most people dismiss as mundane existence, there's holiness pulsing through everything. You begin to realize that miracles aren't interruptions to normal life. They're simply life seen through awakened eyes, through the lens of faith rather than fear, through the perspective of connection rather than separation. Everything that once looked ordinary becomes infused with meaning. Your morning coffee becomes a meditation on gratitude. Your commute becomes an opportunity to practice presence. Your conversations become exchanges of divine energy between conscious beings who temporarily forgot they were divine. The impact of this shift in perception changes not just what you see, but who you become. You start moving through the world as someone who expects beauty, who anticipates grace, who looks for evidence of love instead of confirmation of fear. And because you're looking for it, you find it everywhere. Your decisions come from this place of wonder rather than worry. Your interactions carry the energy of someone who sees God in everyone they meet. Your entire journey transforms from a struggle to survive into an adventure of discovering how many ways the universe can express its affection for you, which naturally brings us to understanding the power that awakens when you speak from this state of consciousness. Write, "I see with childlike wonder," if you're ready to shed the cynicism and recover your natural capacity for faith. This brings us to one of the most powerful revelations in Joseph Murphy's entire body of work. And it's something that will fundamentally change how you speak to yourself and about yourself. You no longer pray to a distant God somewhere beyond the clouds, hoping he's listening and might respond if you're lucky. You commune with the God within, that creative force that imagined galaxies into existence, that spoke light into darkness, that shapes your personal world through the feeling and belief you hold in consciousness. When you say, "I am," you're not making small talk. You're invoking the same power that created everything that exists. I am is the language of creation itself. It's the name God gave when asked for his identity. I am that I am. And that same creative principle lives in you, speaks through you, manifests as you. Every time those two words leave your lips, you're issuing a decree that sets universal forces in motion. The transformation in your life begins the moment you become conscious and intentional about what follows those two sacred words. Most people unconsciously complete that phrase with limitations. I am broke. I am tired. I am stuck. I am unlucky. And the universe, being the perfect mirror that it is, responds with, yes, you are. But when you plant your words with faith, when you consciously choose declarations that align with the reality you want to experience, everything shifts. Say it right now with feeling, I am blessed, I am guided, I am chosen for good, I am surrounded by divine favor. Don't just recite these words like a meaningless affirmation. Feel them as real. Feel what it would be like if these statements were absolute truth in your life. That feeling is what sets creation in motion. The universe doesn't hear what you say with your mouth. It hears what you mean with your heart, what you believe in the depths of your consciousness. Behind the scenes of spoken words, there's a creative mechanism at work that most people never understand. Words are seeds. When you plant a seed in soil, you don't see immediate results, but something begins happening beneath the surface. The seed breaks open, sends roots down, prepares to push shoots upward. Your words operate the same way. When you speak I am statements with conviction and feeling, you're planting seeds in the invisible soil of consciousness that must eventually produce visible fruit in your circumstances. The impact of making this shift in your daily self-talk is immediate and profound. You stop being a passive victim of random circumstances and become an active creator through conscious speech. Every decision about what to say, especially to yourself in those quiet internal conversations, becomes a decision about what you're planting for your future harvest. You start catching yourself mid-sentence when you're about to speak limitation and redirecting toward possibility. You become vigilant about the quality of seeds you're planting, knowing that every I am statement is a prophecy you're making about yourself that the universe will work to fulfill, which naturally leads us to understanding what happens when fear tries to reclaim its territory in your consciousness. Type, I am blessed and guided if you're ready to speak only what you want to see manifested in your life. Now, I want to address something that inevitably happens on this journey because Joseph Murphy was realistic about the human experience. Even as you're implementing everything we've discussed, fear will whisper again. It will try to reclaim territory in your consciousness. And here's what most people get wrong. They think they need to fight it, suppress it, deny it, or feel guilty for experiencing it. But fear is not your enemy. It's a signal calling you to deepen your trust, an invitation to strengthen your faith muscle in the presence of challenge. When fear whispers its familiar lies, don't engage in battle with it. Simply smile inwardly with compassion and say, even this feeling is passing. I am still held in truth. You're not pretending the fear doesn't exist. You're acknowledging it while simultaneously refusing to give it authority over your consciousness. The transformation happens in this moment of choice. Every single time you choose faith in the presence of fear, every time you return to trust when doubt appears, you're literally reprogramming your subconscious mind. You're teaching it at a cellular level that love is safer than fear, that trust produces better outcomes than anxiety, that faith is more reliable than worry. Behind the scenes of this reprogramming, neural pathways are being rewired. Your nervous system is learning a new default response to uncertainty. Where it once automatically jumped to worst-case scenarios, it's now learning to rest in all is well. This phrase, these three simple words, can become your inner refuge, your anchor in storms, your return point when consciousness drifts into turbulence. Say it in the morning before you even get out of bed, setting the tone for your entire day. Say it in traffic when frustration tries to hijack your peace. Say it before sleep, allowing it to be the last message your subconscious receives before entering the creative state of dreaming. Say it until your nervous system believes it. This isn't about forcing yourself to feel something you don't feel. This is about consistent repetition that gradually shifts your baseline state from anxiety to peace. Every cell in your body responds to the vibration you're broadcasting. When you continuously affirm all is well, even when circumstances suggest otherwise, you're creating an internal atmosphere of peace. And peace is the frequency that opens the door for miracles to enter your life through channels you could never have designed with your limited perspective. The impact of this simple practice is far more powerful than it appears. You're not just repeating empty words. You're issuing a command to your entire being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, to align with divine order. You're declaring that regardless of what's happening in the visible realm, you trust the intelligence operating in the invisible realm. You're choosing to rest in the knowing that a wisdom far greater than your worried mind is orchestrating everything for your highest good. Which brings us to understanding how this peace becomes the foundation for every miracle that's about to unfold in your life. Write "all is well" in the comments if you're making this your new baseline, your unshakable truth. So here we are at the end of this journey together, and if you're still here with me right now, that means something. You didn't click away when things got deep. You didn't dismiss these principles as too abstract or too simple. You stayed because somewhere inside you recognized truth. And that recognition is the first step toward transformation. The universe doesn't bring you to content like this by accident. You were guided here because you're ready for what we've been discussing. If this resonated with you, if something shifted inside as you listened, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. I'm not just collecting numbers here. I'm building a community of people who are done with surface-level motivation and ready for the real principles that actually create lasting change. Every video on this channel is designed to take you deeper into these universal laws, to help you remember who you really are and what you're truly capable of creating. And before you go, drop a comment and just write, "This message was meant for me, so I know you made it all the way through." There's something powerful about declaring your presence, about saying, "I was here, I received this, and I'm applying it." Your comment also helps this message reach others who need to hear it, people who are searching for exactly what you just discovered. If you found value in what we explored together today, hit that like button. It's a small gesture that makes a real difference in helping these teachings spread to those who are ready to receive them. Now, there's a video right here that takes what we discussed even deeper into practical application. It's the perfect next step on this path. Click and continue with me over there because your transformation is just beginning and I'll be right there with you. Remember, all is well. You are guided, you are blessed, and the miracles have already begun.